Hi, this is Patrick Ash, author, guitarist, and elderly male pissant. Please see the link to my books below. I'm going to start with a socio-political rant about a very treatable, solvable problem that permeates most of our issues, and I will segue into personal stuff so I won't feel so bad about the stats declining in viewership. We have a major problem in the United States and much of the Western world, and that is what basically anybody who studies this agrees upon: a fraying of social bonds. This has been studied for even centuries, going back to Tocqueville, about American civil society and basically how it's frayed apart. Excellent work. I'm going to have several reading recommendations here on this topic. Is Bowling Alone by Robert Putnam. I had to write papers on this in college. Maybe you did too. And it's essentially about how we need connections. It's basic Psych 101. I feel especially qualified in this realm to speak because I'm a very introverted, socially awkward, likely neurodivergent. I have a bunch of issues and mental health and PTSD, all sorts of crap. And so I've spent years living alone, often have very few friends. And so I feel like a canary in a coal mine. This is a problem that I think everyone kind of knows about to some degree. But the problem is people in power profit off of us not coming together. That's why you might sometimes hear this term, and that is like third place. And that means something, a place in your life, your daily life, that is neither home nor work. A place where you can sit down, chat with somebody. Some forms of this, like coffee shops and breweries and stuff like that, but you usually have to pay money. And even within those, it's like there's only so much space. And then COVID really blew all that up. So anyway, another more recent work on this is Lost Connections with Johann Hari. And his point, if you've seen a TED Talk, was that the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, it is connection. This connection comes up again and again and again. And I don't think what people realize is that's when we look underneath political issues, and yeah, I'm a poli-sci major and a policy analyst by trade, nonprofit program evaluator as well, blah, blah, blah. I could go through my credentials. But like it permeates so many issues, and even studies on longevity about, okay, yes, you should eat well, exercise, and you need social bonds to some degree, including introverted people and socially anxious people like I am. So it's a thing that keeps coming up, and yet it keeps getting worse. And that's the thing I wish people would grapple with and address. But again, people in power stand to benefit from it. A book on this is Matt Taibbi's Hate Inc., which is all about a thing we all know about, that, the left versus right, blue and red, MAGA or blue MAGA or any of that sort of crap. It's a separation that seems to only get stronger. And of course, in recent weeks, it's like on steroids now. With the assassination of Charlie Kirk, everyone's like going into their camps. And it's like, if you don't agree with us, disparate reactions to this event, then you're one of the other. And it's everywhere. It's everywhere. Why I'm ranting about this is I have a close friend who's gone very hard, I won't say what direction, very hard in one of these directions, since you don't agree with me, you're persona non grata. I've written on my channel about here before with Ukraine a few years ago. Real life friends, not just talking about the internet. A friend from college that we agreed on virtually like 95% of things. Like, I very rarely find that kind of agreement. But because we disagreed about strategy, where I was more like, there's more we can do with negotiations, and he was more, no, outright war, Article 5, NATO, World War III, let's do it. I was like, that seems a little bloodthirsty. And he was like, you're a Putin apologist. You are dead to me. You believe in raping children and mass killings. I'm like, you got all that from, I think we could have negotiations. And anyway, I've ranted about that before, but like that alone, it was enough for someone in an ideological mindset. Either you agree with me 100% or you're the enemy. And one of the many issues with that is no two people agree. You get to talk with someone long enough, eventually you'll find something, a important issue that you disagree on. And the few people say, oh, no, I don't do that, I think they're kidding themselves. We all know this. There's study after study, and whether you're in psychology or politics or Public health. We know that lack of social cohesion leads to a host of, and not just like arguments and losing friendships or whatever, but we're more distrustful, we're more paranoid, and as human beings, we need a degree of social cohesion. And tribalism cuts right through that, right? I mean, and we just keep falling for it. Another great book on this is, it's a little bit older, but it's a classic, Amusing Ourselves to Death by Neil Postman. This looks at entertainment in in a nutshell. Who was right, Orwell or Huxley? Sides more with Huxley. I mean, they both are to a degree, of course, but more with Huxley and the things, the pleasures in life become our prisons, essentially. The idea that, and not that technology is all bad or some Luddite thing, those, like, the medium is the message, I think, as Marshall McLuhan once said. And this, of course, a lot of this is old news. It just keeps being reinforced. It was during the pandemic, it has been since, that, like, we know what like, generally speaking, what the problem is. Yes, there are always exceptions and ifs, ands, and buts, but generally speaking, it's like we're finding more and more excuses to separate. The thing I rant about on my channel all the time is about, like, I have passions about writing and music, and Enneagram. I've talked about these things ad nauseum. And in each of these communities, I'm interested in finding more bands that are similar to whatever I'm listening to at the time. Thinking Stradivarius I was listening to earlier, or I'm looking at guitar pickups or certain acoustic. I recently posted a comparison between Cremona classical guitars, and it's that whole people will argue over whatever. And it's not that that's necessarily, because immediately what people push back is like, well, don't we need that for intellectual rigor? And I spent my college days doing that. In the 2000s, I spent most of my free time on the internet arguing. With the principle of, like, well, this will lead to better ideas and better understandings. And it's like downgrading public discourse, as the subtitle to me is death, public discourse in the age of show business. And that, unfortunately, they tend not to be very productive. They tend not to lead to answers so that people can say, oh, we have similar interests and values, and we can do something about that. Do you love the idea that the wealth generated, particularly since COVID, I mean, it's always been this way, but especially in the past 40 years, concentrated at the top, and the middle class is being hollowed out. There's a Instagram who goes through all the data on a regular basis to say the middle class is being hollowed out. That's what's happening. But ideologically, we treat it as though, like, people on the right say it's like, well, I don't want to be one of those lazy people. I believe in hard work. I wouldn't want to attack somebody because, I'm just so hardworking. As I can't remember who first said it, but there's some line that the problem with the working class of America is too many of them believe they're temporarily embarrassed millionaires. The idea being, I could be one of those millionaires if I wanted to, because I'm so hardworking. I'm just, not doing it right now. It's like, or the system's got your brain in a vice grip. And of course, people on the left, they have a different issue ideologically. Like, even though, yes, I tend to be, if you have to put people in camps, I'm a little bit more that way, even though philosophically I go back to the classical liberalism on the conservative side of Edmund Burke and John Locke, natural rights and all that. But when I follow those principles to application in this day and age, I think of policy prescriptions and what will lead to greater freedom for more people. We're not super free if we're living paycheck to paycheck and we're just one diagnosis or one accident or whatever away from financial ruin. That's not freedom. Okay. But initial, I'll say ideologically on the left, because this happens all the time. It's sort of like I'm more caring than you are. I'm more morally pure than you are. Like, people use the term woke, and there's no discussion to be had there. I think it's a meaningless term. People just, a Rorschach that people use, or a monolith that they kind of interpret things and take out of it whatever they want. It's essentially meaningless. The issue I have with a lot of left-leaning people is that they get into I'm more